So on this video, the 700SA, I'm going to go through, I have a small leak, and I'm going to show you how to find a leak, and also we'll replace some of the O-rings and show which sizes go in which areas. So the first thing I did was I took off the moderator, the grip, the sight, and also the barrel shroud, just to help us see what we're looking for. And then I made a little bottle of Dawn dish soap. I use quite a bit of Dawn dish soap for the amount of water. It doesn't have to be exact, as long as you get a good amount. Just cover the bottom of a bottle with Dawn dish soap and then add some water. And you can do it in any kind of bottle. I got even one of these, whatever, squincher type bottles. So you can pop the top off right here and use something like this if you don't have a spray bottle. And sometimes just solid stream works better. So first thing I'm gonna do is check the end down here by the gauge. We're just gonna spray it down, soapy water. And if you go here, kind of rub your finger over it and you can get it to see how a bubble kind of covers that there. And we'll do the same on the other side. And that all looks good there. We don't see any big bubbles. And mine has a really slow leak. It's probably takes 5 or 6 days from full charge to get down to about 100 bar. So it's, we'll go here on the back side, on the regular end of the tube, kind of where the stock regulator would be in the tube to that. We'll go ahead and we'll spray that down good. Kind of go over that, and right there we can see out that port for my humor regulator, the little notch that I made. So that's the O-ring there. We'll go ahead and replace all the O-rings around the humor regulator, and we'll also keep checking, make sure there's no other ones, but you can definitely see it bubbling when you're. So we'll also check back here too, just to make sure this valve, nothing's leaking around there. And we'll do the same thing and just kind of cover everything really good. Same thing with your air transfer port. Let's see, we'll cover that good. And you can see it. I got if I go, you can see that's holding good. And I don't see any bubbles around the valve itself. Same thing, we'll just kind of smear all that soapy water over it, and no bubbles anywhere. So this is our leak right where the regulator is. I'll wipe all of this down, put these off to the side. When you get done with this, I'd recommend going over everything with a light, with a rag with some oil on it, and just kind of lightly oil everything, so then you don't have any problems with rusting, which you shouldn't. It has a good coating on it, and we'll also go through and take air compressor and blow everything off, make sure that we don't have any water in anywhere that we don't want it. So our next step is we're going to go ahead and degas it just like we did before, just by dry firing.
Until we get all the air pressure out.
Down so far, and go ahead and just push on the hammer and release the rest of the air. Wait until you hear all the air finish coming out of the barrel. Always when doing this, and then you can see the air tube just loosened right up. Always when doing this, even when you're taking out the air tube, you never know where air is going to be trapped. So always just go slow, kind of wiggle stuff. Make sure you don't have any trapped air. So we'll go through. We'll dry everything up as we're going. Same thing with that fill port. I'm gonna dry that before we go on so I don't forget. Here, just whatever rig you have laying around. I just wrapped it around an Allen wrench. We should be able to just run that right up in there. Kind of dry everything off a little bit. And so. Just want to make sure that we got all the water out. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and pull this part off the end of your tube there. Take that part, make sure our HEMA regulator O-ring doesn't stick on the end of that. Sometimes it will come off with this piece. And then I'll grab a needle and those pliers and we'll pull out our regulator. Okay, so I got a needle and those pliers here. I'll just go down and grab the edge of that regulator and slowly work it past the seals. And we got this O-ring on the regulator and also this one on this one here, and then also this one on the bottom. And it could be either one of those leaking, so we'll look and see if I have the right sizes and we'll replace both of those. While we're doing that, just go ahead and wipe all this down. It's all still wet. Get it all dried up good. There. That looks good. Get it all dried up nice. Same thing, I'll take the regulator, get some of the O-ring oil off of there, and also dry that up a little bit. Okay, that's good. And our tube. And that looks nice and clean inside there and dry. I don't know if you guys can see that. Pretty dark. There's that. Okay, we'll go ahead and we'll take the disassemble the whole entire gun. So I'll dry all this off. We'll pull these out. We'll pull all this off. Even though it's not leaking, I'll tear it apart. And we'll look at which O-rings go where. And then same thing with the valve, I'll pull that out. And then I'll be back once I get it all tore apart. And we'll go through the O-rings with it. Okay, so as I was taking this apart, this is why I always take everything apart slowly. As I started pulling this bolt out, I could hear air release from the barrel. So that's why you always go slow, and I don't know if we'll hear any more or not. But always go slow when taking something apart with air, kind of wiggle it, pull it out of the seals a little bit. That screw's still in there a little bit, but if anything's trapped, it's not going to blow it across the room. Potential of hurting you or somebody else when you're tearing these apart. So we'll go ahead and finish pulling this off. And there we go. Now my valve is going to look different, or regulator, because I have gone through it, and I'll do another little piece of video showing you what all I did. A little short video on all the mods I made on that. But as for the O-ring sizes, these are going to be the same. All the O-ring sizes should be pretty close to, or are going to be the same, except for inside here. Set that off to the side, and I'm gonna finish pulling out our valve, and we'll redo those O-rings too while we got it apart. Okay, so I got everything laid out here, taken apart, know which O-rings go where. Mine's gonna be a little bit different because my regulator valve, all this stuff don't go back into mine, but that would be the O-ring for that one there. And on my regulator, it's all tore apart. But for on the end here, got the 1.5 by 5 millimeter, and the two back ones here are going to be the 1.5 by 13. On the valve itself, your inside ring here is going to be a 1.5 by 11, and then your two on the back side are going to be a 1.5 by 12.5 millimeter for those two. I'm not sure if there's anything inside the valve for O-rings. I haven't had any problems with my valve, so I decided to just kind of leave it alone and not take it apart, just in case mess it up or something. For your air tube end cap here, you have an O-ring in there, and that would be the 3 by 21 O-ring. It's where if you have the Huma regulator, you won't need these O-rings in there. You'll leave it just the way it is without any O-rings. So on mine, since I have the Huma, I don't use these in there. For the breech seal, this one is kind of, here's the original breech seal O-ring. These here are oversized, so on some of the forums they were saying to go with an oversized O-ring if you're having problems with your breech seal blowing air out of it. So normally you'd want a nice tight fit there, nice tight fit around here. So if you were to take a piece of Kleenex or something and put it over the top of this and fired your gun and it blows out, that would be your breech seal needs to be replaced. If your breech seal, if you replace it with the original size and it still does that, they were going to this oversized one here, which I have a hard time getting this one in. And whenever you go to replace your breech seal, you'll always have to back off your valve some so that you can get it to fit past. I do is about 5 or 6 turns, and then you can pull it back just enough to get your new breech seal in. Otherwise, you just have a little bit right there that kind of covers that up to where you can't get the breech seal in without really using a pick or something, which then you might end up wrecking your new O-ring. So those are those parts. And then always when putting in new O-rings, make sure you're using your O-ring lube. Coat everything good, that'll help. Then for my Huma regulator, I did not have the sizes for that. So I had to go to the Ace here, and I just got standard O-rings. I just sized them up to what they had in the bins and got the closest one that I could find. The stock ones, the one on the outside of the regulator was the one that was leaking. And I don't know if you can see it in the video, but it had a slight twist in it. All right. Let's see. So when I put it in, you can kind of, I don't know if you can see the twist in it or not, but that's what caused, I'm sure that's what caused my leak, but until I get it back together, we won't be 100% positive. So always when putting in your O-rings, make sure you have plenty of lube on them and make sure that there's no twists in them, which that one had a twist in it and now it's kind of held that shape. So even though the O-ring still looks good, having that little bit of a twist in there caused us problems. So I got the two closest sizes that I could find there. So we will go ahead and put everything back together and see if that holds. Okay, I got my two new O-rings on the regulator, and I was careful to not twist that one when I put it in. It's always good to use something like a pick, but be careful not to catch the edge of your O-ring. Kind of slowly work it in behind it, like so. And then let's see if I can get this here, go behind it, and then we'll just do a couple revolutions like that, and hopefully that will take any twists out that was there from rolling it into the groove. That looks good. The bottom one, the size I got, just a little bit too big for outside diameter, but it will work. I'll have to figure out what size regulators, get a hold of Huma and see what size O-rings fit on the regulator. But for now, these should work, and the regulator is super easy to pull out and replace those. Those are in. On these ones here on the stock regulator, same thing, taking them out. I don't know why that's, I take my pick, slide it up along the edge, work it behind, and then you can just roll them right out like that. And then same thing, putting them back on. I'll just pop it back on. And then take your pick and go back around it just to make sure if it was rolled at all, it'll be fine. It'll straighten that O-ring out. Okay, I'll go ahead and replace all the O-rings and re-lube everything and start putting it back together. Here I'm going to take apart your fill end of your air tube and the gauge, and then we'll see what size O-rings those take and I'll replace them. So I kind of pre-loosen this, and inside your bag of parts you're going to get this little tool here, and this is for your gauge. To pull that out, you can take something like an Allen key. If it's tight, grip on here good, and you can break that loose. So then you got a way to some leverage on it to, it appears as tight. Mine I was able to do right just with my hands and that extension tool, or the tool for it. So we'll go ahead and pull this off. Once we get it to there, just slowly wiggle out the O-ring. There, we got a hollow tube for that end, and we'll know that our gauge goes on the end with the lettering on it. The rest of it's plain. So we'll set that off to the side. There's nothing else in there. We will go ahead and pull the gauge out, grab our tool, unscrew that. And there's our gauge. We'll set, that's all there is to that. And we'll set this off to the side. I got an O-ring right there. This is for the gauge. We'll pop that one out. We'll set it out to the side. We got this O-ring here. That was for the tube part. Work our pick back behind there. And we'll slide that one off. Put those two there. Down inside there, I got a flathead screw. I have to go and grab a screwdriver. Okay, I got myself my flathead screwdriver, and we'll go ahead and pull that out. This should be your check valve for when you're filling your gun. And I should be able to just drop that right out. And we got an O-ring on the end there. Okay. And that should be all that there is to taking apart your end of your valve. And I'll get the O-ring sizes for these and we'll go ahead and replace them. Okay, I got all the O-rings for the valve, or the end of your air tube, gauge. Our first one that we will do is your check, and that is 1.5 by 5 millimeter. I'll go ahead and take this one off. There. We'll get some of our O-ring lube. And just put a drop on there. And we'll work it around with our fingers there. Just kind of get it lightly coated. And we'll go ahead and slip that on. Just like it was. I'll go ahead and take her screwdriver and we'll try to get that back in without dropping it. Drop it down in there, shake it a little bit, kind of get it close to the threads, and you should be able to stand it up and get it. It wasn't super tight, so we'll just go snug. Call that good. Our next would be our gauge O-ring. One right here. That is 1.5 millimeter by 8 millimeter. So we'll go ahead Same thing. More O-ring lube. Rub it around, get it coated. And we'll put it, there's a little groove right down in there. You'll be able to see that O-ring should fit right in. We'll slide it right over, right into its spot. I'll take a rag and wipe up some of that stuff around the edges. And I'm just going to take and put another drop of oil just right on that, just to coat it good. We'll go ahead and take our valve and put that back in. Tighten it up. Use our tool here. And once it goes tight, I usually just go just a little bit over snug, and then it stops right there. So it's good. Okay, and then our last O-ring that we're gonna do would be the one here for the air tube, and that's the 3 by 21 millimeter. Same thing, we'll coat it. And then we'll go ahead and put it on here. And I don't want to roll it, so we're going to take our pick. Be careful not to poke your O-ring, stab it, and we'll just go like that. What this does is, if we rolled it at all, it should take that roll right out of there. Just do a couple turns, and then we'll ease that back down. It's still coated good, so then we'll go ahead and put it back into our air tube. Remember, same thing, the letters goes on that end. We'll slowly work that in, nice and easy across some threads, and we should be able to go ahead and go snug with it. It's easy, you don't have to go super tight, just go to where it comes to a stop, and that's it. And that's all there is for the end of the air tube that I know of. I don't think it didn't look like you could take any more apart of it. So okay, now that we got our valve put back together and gauge in the front of the tube, I'm gonna go ahead and put everything together real quick, and we'll refill the gun. Just want to point out to make sure that your little port there is always facing up towards the barrel. Okay, now we're gonna re-air up our gun after doing all of our work and changing O-rings. I got a stainless steel adapter fill probe, and every once in a while I'll just take and put a drop O-ring lube there, rub it in, okay, make sure our bottle's closed, and I always just add a little bit at a time. Wait for a few minutes, kind of let all the air settle. Another thing, make sure you cock your hammer, because it's pressing against the valve. It might just blow air right out the barrel. So we'll go ahead and valve this in. Just crack it for a second. Okay, we'll let it sit there. So not much air in there, but a little bit. And then we'll go ahead Add a little bit more. Oh. Right now I can hear air leaking. So we'll have to find out where it's leaking out at. We can see our gauge. Not much there. I'm going to add a little bit more. Okay. Just kind of feeling, see if I can feel where the air is coming from. I'll open up my breech, see if it's coming through there. I don't feel nothing. So let's add just a little bit more. Pull this out. Move that. And we'll go through with our soap and water again. And see, right there's our leak. Right around the regulator. So I'll go ahead and degas and see if I can find out what happened there, and we will go ahead and I'll start back when I find out. Okay, so I just replaced the bottom O-ring on the bottom of that regulator and the different one, and we'll see if that seals it up. We'll go ahead and put our air in again. Same thing, hammer, make sure we have it hammer back, get the pressure off the valve. And grab our bottle here. Set it like that so then you guys can see. There we go. Tighten our bleed plug. And again, we'll just put a little bit of air in and listen. See if we can hear anything. There, that's sounding a lot better. So go ahead and take it down here. Show you where we're at there. Don't hear any leaks. Just let it sit there for a minute. Grab some soap water and throw in that same area and see if we see anything. And there's no bubbles coming up, so we're good there. Same thing. Nothing out of our bleed port on our regulator, so we're all sealed up. So I'm gonna go ahead and go up probably another 100 bar and let it sit for a minute. Just kind of ease my way up. Listening for any leaks. I don't hear anything, so should be good. I like going up a little bit at a time, just so the motor rings get time to seat. And if we do happen to have one let loose or something blow out, we're not going to waste a bunch of air. Oh, we'll go a little bit more. Sit there for just a little bit. We'll see. We're about 150 bar there. So go ahead and top it the rest of the way off. Let's see where we're at there. Right there, we're full charge. Lead off.